Give me a second. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll first try to define or try to highlight what the business and business teams and their goals would be. Then I would like to uh, prioritize, or sorry, list out the priorities of a software developer, and or at least what it should be. Then uh, I would present some scenarios where I faced problems uh, uh, between the lack of the bridge, and some of the solutions that I researched and thought of. Some of them I got to know from our college itself. One of the courses here taught me about agile. So spoiler alert. So that I would be like I would talk about that too. Then I would highlight some of my experiences, uh, and then finally what I think of when I see these problems pop up in other organizations. Without further ado, so um very recently I was reading through an article presented from the perspective of a Google engineer. He had been working there for at least 10 15 years, however long. I'm not sure how long Google has been around, but he has been there for a while. And what he highlights is what I have presented as my first point. As the priorities for a business changes, the company structure and sentiment also drastically changes. So what it means is, and I'll continue with that article. He highlights how the priorities of the executives at the company have changed, so that what Google had previously been has shifted, and internally how engineers have started feeling towards the company. And initially, Google, we started with as he highlights, he started as a software company, and what they wanted to do was deliver the best software there is. And as in for different business objectives, they wanted to deliver the best experience possible. And I would say that was the set that have got them here to begin with. But recently, changes at the executive level, there have been a drastic change in the sentiment and a drastic change in the priority. And he highlights how Flutter is the last thing that has come out of the old Google. And recently, we've all have been experiencing the quote unquote downfall of the technical delivery of the Google teams. Not to say that Google is not still a very good company, but as from a software engineering perspective, the feeling or the sentiment inside the company has diminished. If you like to challenge yourself in that aspect, in a similar way, when the people who are in charge of the sentiment, the leadership, they play a very key role in influencing the sentiment. Even as to say, the success of the company is highly dependent on their public image, and it also influences the trust in the company. So uh, the financial ups and downs in the stock market are also dependent on such leadership's decisions and public image. Next point would be, internally there are several products, or there are several innovations that certain teams push for. But as business priorities change, so does the resources allocated to the internal teams. So profit margins frequently determine the success or failure of innovation. In the sense, right now, if in the past 2 years or 3 years, we have seen the downfall of crypto, and now we have seen the surge in AI companies that have been trying to view for the gold here. Okay. Yeah. Uh, Sorry, I got distracted by the message, but yeah. So the next point here is what I have felt in several of such startups. As I was working part time in one of such, I had I had direct involvement in such changes. So startups are especially bad at estimating the impact of business on the company. Here, what I mean by this is that startups, since we don't have since they don't have a product and no customer base, it sort of blends everything together and tries to deliver such a product that can be sold to customers. And as such startups that are successful, that grow, they find themselves between a rock and a hard place, trying to navigate uh, the difficulties of business and the product that they have pushed for, or the vision of the company. uh, Now I'd like to shift our focus from the business teams to software development. And as an engineer, and as I have been taught in our esteemed institute, I feel that the first and the foremost priority of an engineer should be to engineer, as in to solve problems, to solve hardships, or to at least think only about that. In the real world, however, we find that as as software engineers especially, it is difficult to just focus on that. We are required to have more dynamic roles, to involve ourselves in business as well, in management too. But uh, essentially, as or in the essence, we should still be problem solvers. Second point would be in software development. It's so This point is, I would say, rather controversial, uh, in the sense that if a mechanical engineer, or sorry, a civil engineer is thinking about building a bridge, they wish to have, or they wish to analyze the trade-offs. Because, for example, we can build a very strong and very secure bridge that can last for, like, let's say 50, 100 years without any repairs. But the cost would balloon, and would be the cost to build such a bridge would be very high. In that case, the civil engineer would look for certain trade-offs that can be made. uh, for example, say a maintenance in 15 years, or determining the best worst bridge that can be built. Again, it's controversial to say this, but uh, uh, that is how the thought of a civil engineer might be, to somehow uh, reduce the costs, or at least make it reasonable. In software development, it's hard to have such a trade-off, in the sense, every part of your project or every part of the software has to be robust enough to thwart attacks, or to be performant enough to uh, say handle huge traffic, or should be scalable enough to replicate itself across multiple machines, so that the best user experience can be delivered. And in that sense, there is software development, there might not be certain things as trade-offs. At the same time, the different parts of the software need to be robust to complete to deliver the software in, or deliver the experience, such as there is no hiccups. Third would be software needs to be maintained well for effective teamwork and collaboration. As modern software has as modern teams have developed, there is several methods that software teams have adopted to ensure that we don't lock into a certain, say, technology, and then not be able to get out of that. So if a software is well maintained well and is thought of from the long term perspective, there are methods that we can adopt, which we can use to maintain well and maybe debug later as well as software teams change. uh, the last one is, I would say, to a personal level, I feel is very important. Software solutions have a tendency of being over engineered very frequently, in the sense we think that the application that we are building can do this, or we think of this as the first deliverable, but very frequently we get lost in the joy of code, I would say, and think of more features that can be added, and that the project can deliver to the users, and very frequently the solutions become over engineered. So finding a balance between the current requirements and the solution is very essential, so that uh, 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 we don't pigeonhole ourselves into one tech stack, and at the same time don't over engineer, so that we can maybe land a rover to the moon using the R software. Then there needs to be a balance. Uh, the next slide is where I have felt there is need to improve, in the sense between conflicts between software and business teams. Uh, and the first point is, business frequently severely underestimate the timeline of software projects. It's I There is there's one very good example that I can think of right now. It's, say, authentication and authorization. Simple screen, login ID and password, right? And uh, from a business perspective, it's just one screen. How hard can it be? Turns out it's actually very hard to get it right. So when we think only in that perspective, our our authentication or authorization screen is highly important. It needs to be robust. It needs to be secure. It needs to be updated frequently, and it needs to also be fast. If an unauthorized hacker tries to get into our system using different other methods, it needs to thwart those attacks and make it so that that unauthorized person should not be able to authenticate through our application. If a legitimate user tries to log into their account, they need to have a seamless experience without facing the downtime or being slowed by the methods that we have implemented of being secure. If say we have a breach into our system, we need to have a robust enough system that we can identify and mitigate those attacks fast enough, so that our users don't experience downtime. So, and this is only the authentication authorization screen that I've talked about. There is a whole aspect of the application that needs to be taken care of. So from the business perspective, it's just one screen. From the software development perspective, it's a lot more. Second would be, uh, when business and software teams talk, usually from the software developers perspective, they like to talk about the technical details. They like to talk about how the project can be accomplished, while the business, they feel the need to talk about the revenue that can be generated, the KPIs that can be achieved, the measurable result in finance that has an impact on business. So there is this communication gap between the software development and the business team. The third would be, as business, or say as a startup grows, they wish to accommodate more of their audience in more features and in more in a more feature rich experience. In that sense, the business teams frequently undermine the underlying product and the underlying mission that the software solves. And this is what we call feature creeps. And this, if a software tends does one thing, but one does that thing very uh, fast and very in a very good experience, gives a very good experience using that, the business teams try to have more features and have more results as a result out of that product. So it's also important for us to discuss about such feature creeps and to mitigate those, or at least have a good faith discussion about such things. The fourth would be, at times there are unrealistic timelines, sudden phenomena, or certain things that certain software things that have been that get overlooked. And at times these sudden timelines have very unrealistic demands. And this incurs to achieve such unrealistic timelines, the software developers have to incur huge technical debts to just meet with the timeline that has been presented. And the technical debt uh, makes it more expensive to maintain and develop on the same software. I think I'm not very sure on this, but Twitter was such a place where there were such certain timelines where the software developer took shortcuts to achieve the required feature. And as a result, there were certain they overlooked certain parts of the functionality that made it insecure. The last would be, and this is where I quote this from one of the popular software streamers. His name is the Primajan, and he says, if we go on Twitter right now, I think I should call it X, but if we go on that platform and uh, we ask what is the most important skill that a software engineer should have, you frequently are there would be many people who would say it's soft skills. And it's interesting and at the same time confusing that a software engineer's greatest skill should not is being overlooked, or to say it's being underestimated to it's not related to software but instead related to soft skills, talking and conversing, which is a weird dynamic. It's weird to say that uh, you should, well, it's important to learn soft skills, but it's also important to have a mastery over the thing that you wish to have as a profession. uh, Next, here are some solutions that I've thought of. And again, this might be uh, these might not this is not an exhaustive list. There are other things that work out as well. So here is what I think would be a very good bridge. And I think it's many organizations have already started implementing this, and that's the inspiration behind this. So at the end, I think it all boils down to effective collaboration between teams interfacing between each other. uh, it There needs to be a certain bridge or entity that takes care of translating, or at least understanding and delivering uh, what the teams expect them to understand. So enters project manager. Now, this I there are many organizations that work without a project manager too. I think a project manager is essential. Many times I have had discussions where software engineers feel overlooked, or they miss out points, or they are uh, uh, they are not able to fully deliver what, or at least speak what they think needs to be highlighted. So as a project manager, their job would be to interface in such a way that the business team get what they want, and the software teams can effectively communicate what they wish to communicate, and at the same time vice versa. Now, as a project manager, these steps can be taken, or these steps can be taken individually as well, without the need for a project manager. Um, I have felt that agile practices have worked out very well for certain teams, but there is also the downside of doing it too well, which results in a decrease in overall productivity. Second would be to have structured responses, to have certain formats that can be answered directly without much uh, conversing, to highlight points, to highlight the from the business side what is expected, and from the software side what is delivered, and to have it in such a way that both the teams can understand at the same time. The third one would be to have certain measurable indexes, or a certain paper trail to what decisions were taken, and why were they taken in the first place, and at the same time what impact that they had on the current product. And last would be the portion of shared accountability. With that, with a paper trail or a mail chain, it is or at least a documentation, it can be achieved. Shared accountability can be achieved, and in the sense that the business would understand what decisions were taken from the development side to meet what demands, and at the same time uh, what are areas that can be improved on when certain problems come up. Now I would like to shift gears and completely change the outlook of the scenario, as in the talk. So I have changed the theme of the presentation as well, and here is where I'll talk about my experience in the current company. It's exciting to me that I'm able to talk about this, because it's a very different perspective that I went in the company as, and from what I have observed and felt in the company. So, our company, we at least my role, I work in on a ERP system, and my we have been working on this ERP system longer than twice my lifetime, and it's humbling, and it's incredibly mind-boggling to me that we have such a software system that we have been developing over such a long period of time. To me, I feel I have not been in such like I have never committed to such a long project, and or at the least thought of such a long commitment to a project. And that's what is interesting to me. Is also fascinating that they have survived with the same principles that they have implemented all those years ago. uh, Talking about the technical aspects, we have at like recorded history of 20 years of C development that we have achieved, and we still use ANSI C as our compiler. I think it's um, uh, I have been told it's ANSI C, and I have also observed that it's the compiler that we use is C99, which is 24, 25 years old now. and we still use it in our systems, which is kind of crazy to like think about it. So uh, we've been working on our software since JavaScript was cool. uh, JavaScript now, all these startups or all the new software that we think of, it's in some way, shape, or form, people are implementing JavaScript as the solution, and we've been working since before that, and we have changed several times our tech stack over the years, and it's fascinating how we have our team has grown and how our team has switched perspectives then. And it's so old that it's even we have our own internal versioning system. Today, if you think about a versioning system, you think of Git. Back then, it was the early versions of SVN, and for to accommodate it to our team, we even developed our own versioning system, which is again kind of crazy to me. uh, there have been recent instances where we have uh, we used certain libraries that now are not being actively maintained, and this is the new team that has developed, like as in it was a JavaScript project and there was certain libraries that was not supported now, and we now have to shift our projects to the new or uh, the new tech stack or the new solution that has been implemented, and that is like a very small version of, or a very small part of the application. The rest of it is still working like past all these years. So uh, talking about the organizational structure here a little bit, what I found out is that all these talk of scalability, containerization, orchestration of such containers, all of this is not present in our company. We don't think of, we have not thought about it in a meaningful way. Uh, we although we haven't thought of that, but our architecture is very similar to a container. It's fascinating because uh, there are two different people who thought of the problem in a different way but have achieved a similar solution at the end. uh, and it's interesting to think that okay, we achieved a certain level of containerization on our own. So to begin, we don't use agile because agile has not worked for us. For us, consistency and uh, uh, the context of such a huge software project matters, and that is why we chose waterfall. In the sense that we have certain phases that are the new feature goes through, and if one of them fails, we start all over again, because it impacts a big portion of our software. We have solved the problem between interfacing teams with our own way. We as software engineers have grown to understand business itself, so that we can interface and talk to the business teams easily. There are still communication gaps, but uh, for us a translation table is helpful, and for us we can utilize, as programmers, we can utilize that to uh, communicate effectively. The third would be for as we are given a feature, the entire accountability then lies on the software team that has to work out the solution and work out the impact that it will have on the current system. So essentially, the software developer is the one who is accountable at the end of the day. The business teams, they find it, they are impacted, but they would still find solutions through the developer. Fourth would be scalability. In modern in the modern solutions, what they are containerizations, Kubernetes, Docker. um uh, uh, these days, Kubernetes is also falling off, but there are other solutions that have advantages. We have load balancers, cloud, uh, smart allocation of resources, all of this. But for us, we didn't have such solution. So what we did was just add more CPU and RAM. I work with C, and I what I am advised to is not have many mem sets in the code, because many times, no, sorry, not mem sets, um, malloc, memory allocations. We are advised to not have as many mallocs. So essentially, uh, the business use case for us, if we are using a malloc, is that we wish to be efficient with our resources, and by doing so, we encounter two problems. uh, if is our malloc actually needed, and after doing the malloc, have we effectively uh, like effectively used it, in the sense, have we avoided the problems that can be encountered while doing the malloc. So we are given abundant resources to use, and we can assign as much memory as we want. We are still used to be efficient, but we still, sorry, advised to be efficient, but still we are given that freedom. So uh, for us, as from the technical perspective, we are given a bit give a bit less to think about in that sense. The next would be for us organizational problems. We have one manager, and that's the one that we have to deal with mostly. There is no team lead dynamic here. In many teams that we see, there are many small teams, small islands that form, and then there are bridges that connect them. For us, it's to say like a binary tree, uh, or not a binary tree, but a tree itself. Uh, there is one root, and everyone is connected to it somehow, and everything goes through them finally. So next would be, in Agile, there is a big oversight, and that oversight is that we have many meetings, and there are also, to quote again Primogen from one of the streams, he says, "I when I used to work at he used to work at Netflix, and he is talking about his experience. He says that one time they had a meeting to discuss certain solutions, and to prepare themselves for that meeting, they had another internal meeting where they talked about how they want to talk in the meeting itself. It's confusing, but in such a large software organization, sometimes this happens where we are told not to talk about this in this meeting that discusses something which needs to be further talked about in another meeting. So previously, or at least in our organization, we had problems that are told to us from the business, and we are told to solve it on our own, as a team. There are no certain, like, okay, this is the software solution, and this has fallbacks and all of that. Uh, it's also fortunate enough for us, for because we are using C, we are already performant. Even if we are less performant in a slightly another way, it's fine for us, because we can take a bit more time to be more performant, or sorry, add more computation there. So if say we are using JavaScript, we already have to think about performance, and at the same time, if there is another problem, we have to think the impact of this solution, and the performance decrement that we will have for because of this. So for us, even if there is a decrement, we are already fast enough. We use one language now for the entire interface. We have a C for us. There have been talks about C++, but they have been pushed back as well from other teams and other thoughts. And for now, we are using C, and we are very happy with it. Uh, Finally, my thoughts. Uh, this would be a slightly unstructured, because I have felt that uh, if I go look for such some information, I get that information, but I don't get the insight behind it. And I have felt that when there is sometimes something completely unrelated talked about, and a certain nugget of information is dropped, which is very beneficial or very, I find it highly valuable to me. um, so here are my thoughts. uh, uh, Linus, the person behind Linux, Linus Torvalds. He, I, I, I don't know if I have misspelled it here, but his the creator behind Linux, he has interesting takes, and to me, they feel like they actually feel really, really meaningful. In the sense, he once he talks about a person who contributed a solution to a problem that might exist, and he rejected that, claiming that we can all create problems and then propose solutions for those problems, but essentially we are not dealing with what we actually want to do. Practically, what problems we are facing, that is what should be focused on, instead of, hey, in the future, maybe if there are 10 systems connected to this particular node, we might face certain problems, and that is why here is a solution that I'm proposing. I'm not paraphrasing in the sense, I'm just taking an example, but yeah, interesting takes. I have already covered the second point here, that don't create problems itself to solve, and don't solve problems that don't exist to begin. And that way we can somehow mitigate a large portion of over engineering that goes into software projects. Large portion of the resources can also be saved like that. Third, this is one of my, I think the VP of President advised me with this. Sorry, the VP of Technology told me about this. He tells me about his experience, and how a team, they were discussing about a certain problem, and they wished to have a higher up from the organization to talk about it. And one of the people in the meeting, one of the person in the meeting, they say, I know him and I know what he will respond with. I think it's good that we have him in the meeting. I think he talks about consistency. They know him. They know him as being consistent with how he approaches things, and that is why they feel comfortable having him uh, go through the solution or problems that team proposes. So being consistent in work and ethic is important, and its impact is a lot bigger than you think, and that we realize. Fourth is again my completely my opinion. I think embracing C is very it's very not. There are certain fringes of the internet that talk about this, but people dismiss it very easily, and I feel that that dismissal is not okay, because C is the lowest that you can go without delving into assembly itself. With C, the the problems that you think of are completely different from higher up in the stack, and uh, uh, the performance that you gain by thinking about those problems and solving them, it's highly it's very regarded, and it's highly coveted in the industry. And if you as a developer can uh, like effectively be performant in C, I think it's very very important, a very good skill to have. The next is, uh, I I have this opinion in, like in a more general way, um, like in the sense that a lot of one thing is always detrimental. Like to say, drinking a lot of water, past the exceeded, or sorry, advised limit, is also harmful to the body. And in the same sense, going too much into agile has led us to be less performant. Try and The entire purpose of agile would have been to increase performance, and agile itself is now being a detriment to performance. So in that sense, I feel Kanban is just enough agile. And I found out that uh, the visibility, at the same time as the progress that can be reported through that visibility, is very uh, uh, very precious. People wouldn't find it precious first, but then later, as they use it more and more, Kanban feels as if it's a big thing in the organization. Mastery over soft skills, I advise this to, at least in the Indian industry. Mastery over soft skills is highly coveted, uh, in the sense that uh, many times as a software engineer, the path to moving forward in an organization is shifting to management. So you started as a software engineer, and now you shift yourself to a management first. And that to actually being to give that transition, or at least to make that transition meaningful, organizations look for the soft skills of a person and their effective communication ability between teams. So it's important to have mastery over soft skills. And for me, I would like to have mastery over software itself, because I find that it's a whole new world, the more you explore. And me, I would have I would not have been able to discover the vast knowledge that needs to go into such into such masterful softwares and into such masterful techniques. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for everyone joining in. uh, Ma'am,
Yes, thank you,
anything to?
Mamor. Thank you so much. And any one of you, if you have any questions, you can please post in the chat box.
Yeah, mm,
If you have any questions, you can please post them in the chat box.
mm, there is several things that I've missed out from my experience as well. So if you guys want to ask that too, I am open to that as well. Yeah, it's okay. I think there's someone in the chat that is writing it out. Mm, Thank you, sir. Harshit, sir, what would you recommend as a first year to do be up to date with current industry? Harshit, realistically speaking, is you are Harshit, right? I'm going to presume that that's your first name and address you like that. So, as a first year student, or at least currently in the market, that as we see, there is like a huge upheaval in the sense, and there is a lot of things that are going on. There are a lot of moving parts in the equation as well. Recently, or at least I think I'll get you up to date for now, but maybe you can follow them later as well. Uh, right now, OpenAI has, as they released ChatGPT and their new models, they have there are many people who think that like somehow or the other AI will be able to shift or AI will be able to replace software engineers, and there are a lot of people that disagree. And the the points that they bring up are actually kind of fascinating too. As a as a large language model, the best a machine learning model can do is predict, and the entire premise is prediction. For us as software engineers, it is important to be precise. So uh, the LLM can never be precise, because the entire idea behind an LLM is being predictive predictions. And the best example is, think about two cars. uh, what everyone in this call would think about different cars, but from the LLM's perspective, it can give you a close imitation of what we all are thinking about, but it can never be precise. There is another Vsauce video. They talk about how the red that I think of is not the same red that you think of, but the large language model is, to say, a great middle point between us. So if you are and then this is the entire AI thing that I've already now talked about. There is nothing more, nothing less to this. There would be major developments, yes, but unless they completely shift their technology behind the model, I don't think the AI is going to replace software engineers soon. So apart from that, there are a lot of other technologies that we can look at. If I'm to talk about front end itself, I'm only going to talk about two of these, as in front end and AI. There are a lot of other things that you can look at, but it would be a long discussion. There are other questions piling up, I see as well. So front end, there are a lot of other frameworks that are popping up as well. Next, Svelte, Quick, to name a few. There is Solid Start as well. All of these frameworks are solutions to things that are not in front end itself. Next.js, they have solved a lot of the front end problems, and now the problems that they address are in the back end side of things. So there, if there are three parts to the stack: back end, say network, and front end. The front end part is solved. Now they are trying to solve the back end part. So identifying that is important, and to be able to identify that, you need to have clarity into the stack. So being able to identify backend, being able to identify the network stack, that is important. So basics are important. uh, I DSA is important in the sense, again, I'm not talking about interviews. I'm not talking about interview prep. I'm talking about software engineering itself. DSA is important, and not don't get too lost in DSA. There are other things that would help you out as well. Maybe till trees and uh, a bit of graphs, heaps and all that. All of these concepts, very important. Implementation and getting lost in competitive programming is not important, but it's important from the interview perspective, and that is why a lot of people practice it. So if your goal is to get a job, DSA and only DSA. If you wish to be a software engineer in a more rounded sense, you wish to explore, there is a lot, and trying to find that niche is important. Okay, next. I hope I answered you, Harshad. Manas, what are different roles as a software engineer? Software engineers, and then you, like. then you grow up to manage that software. So I think there are not more than two roles. You can say that there are a lot of roles between a spectrum, but then there is software engineering and then there is management. So in between these two, there are a lot of other roles that can come. So if say you are beginning as a fresher, your major role would be to understand the current stack. Then as you shift to, let's say, a permanent software engineer, you have to contribute. As you